Welcome to Chinese History and Mythology. Hello friends, welcome back, and welcome to the continuing broadcast of Chinese History and Mythology. Last time, we turned our attention to the southern state of Zhou. In the 13th year of King Hui of Zhou, Zhou assumed the post of Lingyin of Chu and began a reform of real consequence. Zhou stated bluntly that the root of national disorder lay in a weak ruler and overmighty ministers. He led by example, surrendering half of his own fief to the state treasury and ordering all other ministers to do the same. None dared disobey. He then took advantage of Ying's strategic position, with the Jiang River to the south and the Han River to the north, and moved the Shu capital from Dangyang to Ying. History later called it the capital of Ying. In domestic affairs, Zhou reorganized the army, trained the soldiers, and promoted men of talent. He appointed the royal clansman Hu'er as senior minister, placed Dou in command of the army, and assigned Ban to guard key strategic points. Order gradually took shape, and Chu's national strength rose rapidly. When Duke Huan of Qi heard that Chu was employing capable men and growing ever stronger, he feared that Chu might advance northward and threaten the central plains. He therefore considered forming an alliance of the feudal lords to attack Chu. Guanzhong, however, calmly advised against it. He pointed out that Chu was vast in territory and strong in arms. With Zhou commanding its forces, military force alone would not bring victory. More importantly, although Qi had gained the allegiance of the feudal lords, it had not yet completed the moral foundation of hegemony to preserve endangered states, restore broken lines, and revive the weak. To launch a campaign rashly at this moment would not guarantee full support from the other lords. Duke Huan then proposed annexing the state of Zhong, which had not yet fully submitted. Guanzhong argued that although Zhong was small, it shared the same ancestral lineage as Qi. Direct annexation would violate righteousness. It would be better to feign military action and force Zhong to submit voluntarily, gaining territory without damaging legitimacy. As he predicted, Zhong grew fearful and came to surrender. Just as the ruler and ministers of Qi were discussing state affairs, new news arrived. The state of Yan had been attacked by the Shanrong tribes and had sent an envoy to seek aid. Guanzhong immediately identified the key point. If Qi wished to deal with Chu in the future, it first had to pacify the northern Rong and D tribes and eliminate external threats. And so the story paused here for the moment. How would Duke Huan subdue the Rong, and what step would his hegemonic ambition take amid the fires of war in the north? Let us continue. Now, these Shanrong were a branch of the northern Rong peoples. Their state was called Gong, located at Lingyi, also known as Lizi. To the west lay Yang, while to the southeast were Qi and Lu. Positioned between these three states, the Shanrong relied on treacherous terrain and strong cavalry. They refused to submit to royal authority and repeatedly harassed the states of the Central Plains. In the past, when they encroached upon Qi's borders, they had once been defeated by a sudden attack, led by a prince of Xing. Now, upon hearing that Duke Huan intended to attack Zhang, the Shanrong dispatched 10,000 cavalry to assault Yan, hoping to sever Yan's route to Qi. Duke Shang of Yan could not withstand them and urgently sent messengers through mountain paths to seek aid from Qi. Duke Huan summoned Guanzhong for counsel. Guanzhong said, "To the south lies Shu, to the north the Rong tribes, and to the west the D tribes. All are grave threats to the Central Plains and must be dealt with one by one. In the past, even when the Shanrong did not attack Yan, we wished to destroy them. Now that Yan has come to us for help, all the more reason to act." Thus, Duke Huan led his army to rescue Yan. After crossing the Ji River, the Qi army was received by Duke Shuang of Lu. Duke Huan informed him of the campaign against the Rong. Duke Shuang approved, saying, "To eliminate a stubborn enemy and pacify the north benefits not only Yan but our own state as well. I am willing to lead troops to assist." Duke Huan replied, "The northern roads are long and dangerous. I will not trouble your lordship to march so far. If my army meets adversity, I shall then request reinforcements." Duke Zhuang agreed. Duke Huan bade farewell and led his army northwest. The Shanrong chieftain Miliu had been raiding Yang's borders for nearly 2 months, seizing large numbers of people and goods. When he heard that the Qi army was approaching, he hastily withdrew his forces. Duke Huan advanced to Jimon Pass, where Duke Zhuang of Yang came out to welcome and reward the troops. Guanzhong advised Duke Huan, "The Shanrong fled at the first sign of our arrival and have not yet suffered a real defeat. If we withdraw now, they will surely return. It would be better to take this opportunity to destroy them completely and remove this threat once and for all." Duke Huan agreed. Duke Huan of Yan requested to lead his own troops. As the vanguard, Duke Huan replied, "Your forces have been fighting continuously and are already exhausted. How could I bear to send them into the front lines again? Please remain with your army as the rear guard and lend strength to our momentum." Duke Huan then suggested, 80 li east of here lies the state of Wuzhong. Though they are of Rong origin, they do not submit to the Shanrong. They can be summoned to serve as guides. Duke Huan consented and immediately dispatched Gongsun Zibang with rich gifts to request assistance. The ruler of Wuzhong gladly accepted and sent the general Hu'er Ban with 2,000 cavalry to aid the campaign. Duke Huan received and generously rewarded Hu'er Ban, appointing him as vanguard commander. After advancing 200 li, Duke Huan found the mountain roads increasingly perilous and summoned Duke Huan of Yan for advice. Duke Huan said, "This place is called Kuizi. It is the only route into northern Rong territory." Duke Huan and Guanzhong decided to leave half their provisions at Kuizi, placing Boshuja in charge of guarding and transporting supplies. After resting the troops at Kuizi for 3 days, Duke Huan left behind the old, weak, and wounded, and marched forward at speed with the strongest men. When Miliu learned that the Qi army was attacking, he hastily summoned his general Sùmai to discuss strategy. Sùmai said, "The Qi army has come from afar and must be exhausted. We should strike them suddenly before their camp is secured. Victory will surely be ours." Miliu agreed and ordered Sùmai to lead 3,000 cavalry to lie in ambush throughout the valleys, waiting to intercept the Qi forces. Hu'er Ban, leading the vanguard, arrived first. Sùmai advanced with only 100 horsemen to engage. Hu'er Ban displayed great valor, raising his iron hammer and striking at Sùmai. Sùmai feigned defeat, retreating while fighting and luring Hu'er Ban into the forest, where the ambush closed in. Hu'er Ban fought desperately but could not break through. His troops suffered heavy casualties, and even his own warhorse was wounded. At the critical moment, the main Qi army arrived. The Qi general, Prince Chengfu, charged bravely, defeated Sùmai, and rescued Hu'er Ban. Hu'er Ban led the remaining Rong troops back to Duke Huan. His face filled with shame, Duke Huan encouraged him, saying, "Victory and defeat are the common fortunes of war. Do not take it to heart." He also bestowed a fine horse upon him, moving Hu'er Ban to tears of gratitude. The army advanced 30 li eastward to Mount Fulong. Duke Huan and Duke Huan of Yan stationed their troops on the mountain, while Prince Chengfu and Binzhu were ordered to camp below. Several camps were linked together with war chariots, forming what was known as a chariot city. The next day, Miliu personally led Sùmai and 10,000 cavalry to challenge the Qi positions, launching several assaults, all of which were repelled by the chariot city. By afternoon, Guanzhong observed that the enemy numbers in front had decreased, and the remaining soldiers dismounted, hurling insults at the Qi army. Guanzhong summoned Hu'er Ban, patted his shoulder, and said, "The time has come for you to avenge your humiliation." Hu'er Ban accepted the order and led his troops out. Gongsun Zibang expressed concern that the enemy might be plotting something. Guanzhong replied, "I anticipated this long ago." He immediately ordered Prince Chengfu to advance on the left, and Binzhu went on the right, both tasked with intercepting and destroying the enemy ambushes. The Shanrong were accustomed to ambush tactics. Seeing that the Qi troops held firm within the chariot city, they hid their main force in the valleys and sent men to provoke the Qi army, hoping to lure them out. When Hu'er Ban charged from the chariot city, the Rong troops fled at once. As Hu'er Ban prepared to pursue, he suddenly heard the signal to withdraw from the main camp and immediately reined in and returned. Miliu, seeing Hu'er Ban engage, was overjoyed and prepared to order the valley troops to encircle him. Suddenly, 2 Qi forces attacked from the flanks. Caught, unprepared, the Shanrong were cut to pieces by Prince Chengfu and Binzhu and fled in great defeat. Miliu was deeply frustrated by this initial setback. Sùmai then proposed another plan. The Qi army must pass through the Huangtai Valley as it advances. We can block the valley entrance with timber and stone, dig numerous pits outside, and station heavy troops there. Even an army of 1,000,000 would not get through. Moreover, there is no water source within 20 li of Mount Fulong. The Qi army relies entirely on the Ru River for water. If we divert the water, they will fall into chaos from thirst, and we can strike them then. We should also send envoys to the state of Guju to request reinforcements. Miliu was delighted and acted accordingly. After the Rong defeat, Guanzhong noticed 3 days of complete inactivity and grew suspicious. He sent scouts to investigate. They soon returned, reporting that the Huangtai road had been blocked. Guanzhong summoned Hu'er Ban and asked, "Are there any other routes?" Hu'er Ban replied, "From here to Wangtai is only 15 li and leads straight into enemy territory." Any other route requires a long detour southwest, passing Jima Ridge and exiting through Qingshan Pass before heading east to the Shanrong stronghold, but that route is mostly mountain paths, difficult for carts and horses. As they were discussing this, another report arrived that the Rong had cut off the water supply. Hu'er Ban added, "The roads around Jima Ridge are extremely rugged and would take several days to traverse. Without carrying large amounts of water, it would be impossible." Duke Huan issued an order for the soldiers to dig wells on the spot. Whoever first found water would receive a generous reward. Gang Sinzaipang advised, "I have heard that underground water often lies near ant nests. We should dig where ant holes are found." The soldiers searched everywhere for ant nests, but found none, Saipeng then explained. Ants fear the cold in winter and dwell on the southern sides of mountains. They fear heat in summer and dwell on the northern sides. It is winter now, so we should search the sunlit southern slopes. The soldiers followed his advice and indeed found water halfway up a sun-facing slope. When Milu heard that the Qi army had not lost its water supply, he exclaimed in shock, "Do the people of the Central Plains truly have divine aid?" Sùmai said, "Even if the Qi army has water, they have come from afar and must have limited provisions. If we hold our ground and refuse battle, once their supplies are exhausted, they will withdraw on their own." Milu agreed. After securing water, Guanzhong immediately divided the army into two forces. He ordered Bin Zuwu to feign a return to Kuizi to transport supplies. In secret, however, Hu'er Ban guided him along the Jima Ridge route to strike the Shangrong rear, with a deadline of 6 days. The remaining troops stayed at Mount Fulong to prepare for a frontal assault. To prevent Milu from growing suspicious, Guangzhong sent troops daily to challenge and taunt the enemy at Huangtai. After 6 days, the Rong forces at Huangtai still did not come out to fight. Guangzhong addressed the commanders, saying, "According to our plan, General Bin's western force should already have succeeded. Since the enemy refuses battle, we cannot wait any longer." He then ordered each soldier to carry a sack of sand, with 200 empty carts advancing at the front. Whenever they encountered pits or trenches, they were to fill them with sand. The army reached the valley entrance. At a signal, the soldiers cleared away the timber and stones blocking the passage and surged into the valley. Milu, trusting Sùmai's strategy and believing all was secure, spent his days drinking and feasting with him. Hearing that the Qi army had broken into the valley, he hurriedly mounted his horse to meet them. Before battle could begin, another report arrived that Qi troops were attacking from the western route as well. Knowing that Jima Ridge had fallen, Sùmai lost all will to fight. He fled southeast together with Milu. Bin Zuo pursued for a time but failed to catch them and withdrew. The Qi army won a great victory, capturing countless carts and supplies and rescuing all the Yan civilians taken by Milu. Seeing the might of the Qi forces, the people of Lingyi surrendered one after another. Duke Huan pacified them all and ordered his soldiers not to harm any Rong who had surrendered. The Rong people were greatly pleased. Duke Huan summoned the surrendered Shanrong and asked, "Where do you think your ruler has fled to now?" The Shanrong replied, "Our state borders Guju. We have long lived in friendship with them. Not long ago, we even borrowed troops from them. Our ruler has certainly fled there." Duke Huan questioned them further about Guju's strength and the routes leading to it. The Shanrong answered, "Guju is a great state to the southeast. Even in the Shang dynasty, they were already building walled cities there. From here, travel a little over 100 li, and you will reach a stream called the Bayer. Cross the Bayer, and you are within Guju's borders. The only difficulty is that the mountain roads in between are extremely steep and hard to traverse." Duke Huan said to his commanders, "Guju and the Shanrong have been colluding like wolves in the same pack. Since they are so near, we must march against them." At that moment, the General Gaohe, a subordinate of Boshuea, arrived with supplies. Duke Huan ordered him to remain with the army for further command. He also selected more than 1,000 robust soldiers from among the surrendered Shanrong and placed them under Hu'er Ban to replenish the men he had lost. 3 days later, Duke Huan gave the order to attack Guju. Meanwhile, Milu and his followers fled into Guju and met its ruler, Dalu. They wept loudly and pleaded, "He relies on superior numbers and has seized our state. We beg you, my lord, send troops to avenge us." Dalu replied, "I had already intended to raise troops to help you. I was only delayed a few days by illness. I never expected you to suffer such a loss. Here we have the Bayer stream as a natural moat. The water is deep and swift, and I have seized every raft and kept them in the harbor. Even if the Qi army had wings, they could not cross when they withdraw. You and I will lead troops together, reclaim your lands, and restore your borders. How does that sound?" The general Huang Hua said, "To prevent the enemy from building rafts of their own, we should station heavy forces at the stream mouth and patrol day and night. Only then can we be completely secure." Dawi said, "If they build rafts, how could we not know?" And he refused Huang Hua's proposal. Duke Huan marched toward Guju. Before he had gone 10 li, the way was blocked by boulders, thickets, and tangled growth. Guanzhong ordered sulfur and saltpeter to be scattered through the brush and set it ablaze. The fire burned for 5 days and 5 nights. Afterward, he ordered the soldiers to carve a road through the mountains so that the war chariots could pass. Many commanders reported that the mountain paths were too difficult and requested that the army abandon the chariots and proceed on foot. Guanzhong refused, saying, "The Rong cavalry is swift and agile. Only with chariots can we bring them under control." To raise morale, Guanzhong composed a marching song and ordered the soldiers to sing it as they advanced. The singing rose and fell in waves, echoing everywhere. Duke Huan, Guanzhong, and Gongsun, Saipeng climbed to a peak to watch the army move forward amid the chorus. Duke Huan sighed. "Only today do I understand that a man's strength can be drawn from song." Guanzhong said, "When I once sat in a prisoner cart, fearing that the men of Lu would catch me, I also made a song and taught it to the soldiers and the charioteers. When people sing with spirit, they forget their fatigue and run faster." Duke Huan asked, "What is the principle behind it?" Guanzhong replied, "When the body is exhausted, the mind scatters. When the spirit is uplifted, the body's weariness can be forgotten for a time." Duke Huan admired him deeply and said, "Chengfu understands the human heart and the patterns of the world. You may be called a sage." After crossing several ridges, another mountain rose ahead, a single sheer rock wall with one narrow path cut through its middle, so tight that only one man and one horse could pass at a time. Chariots could not get through. The key army's carts and horses jammed together at once. Seeing this, Duke Huan felt fear. He turned to Guanzhong and said, "If the enemy has an ambush here, none of us will have a place to die and be buried." As Duke Huan struggled for a way forward, something emerged from a hollow in the hills ahead. It looked neither fully human nor fully beast. It was a little over a foot tall, dressed in red with a black cap, barefoot. It bowed respectfully before Duke Huan as though welcoming him, then tugged at its garment with its right hand and dashed toward the narrow passage in the rock wall. Duke Huan was startled and asked Guanzhong, "Chengfu, did you see that?" Guanzhong replied, "I saw nothing." Duke Huan then described what he had seen. Guanzhong was delighted. "That must be the Hu'er mentioned in my song. Hu'er is the mountain god of the northern highlands. Only a true hegemon and kingly ruler can see him. His bow was a salute of welcome, urging you onward to attack Guju. His gesture of lifting his clothing means there is water ahead. His use of the right hand indicates the water on the right is deeper, instructing you to cross on the left." An old commentator later wrote verses about Guanzhong's recognition of Hu'er, essentially questioning how he could be so certain, and suggesting that such marvels belong to the realm of doubtful tales rather than sober history. Guanzhong stationed the army on the mountain and sent scouts to examine the water and terrain. The scouts returned and reported, "Less than 5 li downhill lies the Bier stream. The current is swift and the water is deep. There were once rafts for crossing, but the Rong have seized them. However, if we follow the stream to the left, 3 li farther on the water widens and runs gently. The depth does not even reach the knee. The whole army can wade across." Duke Huan clapped his hands and said, "Exactly as you were indicated." He then turned to Duke Zhou of Yan and asked, "How far from here to Guju's capital?" Duke Rong replied, "After crossing the stream and heading east, you will come in sequence to Tuanzi Mountain, Mabin Mountain, and Shuangzi Mountain. The 3 connect, and the distance is a little over 30 li. After passing those 3 mountains, go another 25 li, and you reach Guju's capital, Wudi." Hu'er Ban requested permission to lead his troops across first. Guanzhong said, "If we advance from only one crossing and encounter the enemy halfway, we will be trapped between advance and retreat. We should cross by 2 routes." He ordered the soldiers to cut bamboo and wood on the spot and bind them with mountain vines into makeshift rafts. Guanzhong divided the army into 2 columns. Prince Chengfu led Gaohe and 1 column across by raft on the right. Guangzi Kaifeng and Shu Tao accompanied Duke Huan. As the rear support on that route, Benzhua and Hu'er Ban led the other column to wade across the shallows on the left, with Guanzhong and Duke Zhou of Yan serving as the rear support there. The 2 forces were then to reunite at Tuanzi Mountain. In Wudi, Dali saw no movement from the key army and sent scouts to the Bier stream. When the scouts reached the bank, they saw the entire stream covered with key rafts. Terrified, they rushed back to report. Dala was shocked. He immediately dispatched Huang Hua with 5,000 troops to meet the enemy. Milu and Sùmai asked to accompany him. Huang Hua refused, saying, "I have no wish to share a camp with defeated men." He mounted his horse and rode off. Dola then said to Miliu, "To the northwest lies Tuanzi Mountain. The key route Qi must take from the east. You are to lead troops there, support Huang Hua, and hold the pass. I will follow shortly." Miliu agreed aloud, but inwardly he burned with resentment at Huang Hua's contempt. Before Huang Hua even reached the stream, he met Gao Hei's vanguard. The two armies clashed. Gao Hei could not withstand the assault and was about to order a retreat when Prince Chengfu arrived with reinforcements and joined the fight. Just as the battle reached a stalemate, Duke Huan arrived with the main force. Gongzi Kaifang swept in from the right and Shu Tao from the left, encircling the Rong troops. Huang Hua panicked, abandoned his men, and fled. Of the 5,000 Guchu cavalry, more than half were killed or wounded. The rest surrendered. Huang Hua fled toward Tuanzi Mountain, only to find his route blocked. Bin Zhuo, who had crossed the stream on foot, had already seized the heights. Huang Hua did not dare force his way through. He abandoned his horse, disguised himself as a woodcutter, and escaped by a narrow mountain trail. Duke Huan won a major victory, reached Tuanzi Mountain, and joined forces with Bin Zhuo. Milu had just reached Mabin Mountain when the forward scouts reported, "Tuanzi Mountain has been taken by the main Qi army." Milu had no choice but to halt his troops at Mabin Mountain. Huang Hua fled there and, seeing friendly banners, hurried into the camp. Milu, seeing him return in defeat, mocked him. "So, great general who never loses, why have you come here alone as well?" Huang Hua's face flushed with shame. He asked Milu for food and drink. Milu gave him only a single measure of roasted barley. He then asked for a horse, and Milu gave him a lame one. Huang Hua clenched his teeth in hatred and returned to Wudi to see Dala. Dala sighed, "It is because I refused your loyal counsel in the beginning that we are ruined today." Huang Hua said, "Qi's true hatred is directed only at Milu and Sùmai today. We need only kill those two, present their heads to the ruler of Qi, and sue for peace. The Qi army will certainly withdraw." Dali replied, "Milu fled here in desperation to seek refuge. How could I bear to betray him?" The Chancellor Wu Lagu then stepped forward and said, "I have a plan that can turn defeat into victory." Dollar urgently asked what it was. Wu Lagu said, "North of our state there is a place called the Dry Sea, also known as the Maize Valley, a vast desert of gravel and sand. Our people often discard corpses there after death. Strange winds howl there from time to time. When they pass, men and horses seldom survive. The sandstorms are so thick that one cannot tell directions, and poisonous snakes and fierce beasts roam everywhere. Once a man enters, it is nearly impossible to escape alive. If we send someone to feign surrender and lure the Qi army into that place, we will not need to spend a single soldier. Their entire force will be annihilated." Dala did not believe it. Why would the Qi army ever go there? Ulugu said, "My lord should hide the palace women and the royal household at Yangshan, and order the common people to take shelter in the valleys. Leave the capital as an empty city. Then send someone to surrender falsely and claim our ruler has fled into the desert to borrow troops. The Qi army will certainly send men in pursuit, and then they will fall into the trap." Dalu rejoiced. Huang Hua requested permission to go and perform the false surrender. Dalu gave him 1,000 men and ordered him to act according to Wu Lugu's plan. On the road, Huang Hua thought to himself, "If I go to surrender, but do not kill Milu, the men of Qi will never trust me. If the deception succeeds, even if I kill Milu, the ruler will not dare blame me." Having decided, he led his men to Mabin Mountain. At that time, Milu was still locked in stalemate with the Qi army. Hearing that reinforcements had arrived, he hurried out of camp to greet them. Huang Hua seized the moment. With a single stroke, he cut Milu down from his horse. Sùmai, seeing this, was furious. He mounted and charged Huang Hua. Their forces, each loyal to its own leader, surged into battle as well. Sùmai realized he could not prevail and fled alone to Hu'er Ban's camp to surrender. Hu'er Ban did not believe him and ordered the soldiers to drag him out and execute him. Thus perished the ruler and minister of Lingyi for daring to raise troops and harass the Central Plains. Both were killed on the same day. Later historians, reflecting on the rise and fall of this border state around the rivers and mountains it once relied upon, wrote in verse 2, Mornet, the meaning was plain. A people who made predation their policy, gained loot for a moment, and lost their country and their lives in the end. Huang Hua absorbed the remnants of Miliud's forces, went to the key camp, and presented Miliud's severed head. He said, "Our ruler has led the people into the desert to borrow troops from foreign lands for revenge. I urged him again and again to surrender, but he would not listen. I've now killed Miliu and asked that your army take us in. I am willing to serve as your guide and lead you to pursue our ruler." When Duke Huan saw Mili's head, it was impossible for him not to believe Huang Hu's story. He immediately ordered Huang Hua to lead the way. The army advanced to Wudi first, and when they arrived, they found, as expected, an empty city. Duke Huan trusted Huang Hua even more. Fearing that Dali might flee to another state, Duke Huan left Duke Zhuang of Yan with Yan troops to hold Wudi, while he himself took the key forces and pursued Dali at full speed. Huang Hua asked to scout ahead. Duke Huan agreed and sent Gao He to accompany him. The main key army followed behind. Not long after entering the desert, Duke Huan lost contact with Huang Hua. Seeing that night was approaching, he was about to order the army to make camp when a cold, unnatural wind swept through. Immediately afterward, a thick fog enveloped them. The wind frightened men and horses into chaos, and many soldiers collapsed after breathing in the foul air, their life and death uncertain. Seeing this, Guanzhong hurried to Duke Huan and said, "I have heard that there is a place in the north called the Dry Sea, exceedingly dangerous and terrifying. I fear this is it. We must not go forward." Duke Huan accepted Guanzhong's warning and urgently ordered a retreat, but the front and rear columns could no longer communicate. With the situation critical, Guanzhong protected Duke Huan as they withdrew and ordered the soldiers to beat drums and sound gongs. First, to drive away the malignant air, and second, to summon the scattered troops back to the center. They marched an unknown distance before the violent wind and dense fog finally dispersed. Half a new moon appeared in the sky. The various key detachments, guided by the drumbeats, arrived one after another and reunited with Duke Huan and Guanzhong's central force. At daybreak, Guanzhong took a head count and found the losses severe. Even Gongzhong Zipuang was missing. With the terrain treacherous and no sign of habitation, Duke Huan dared not linger. He ordered an immediate withdrawal along the route by which they had entered. Yet the key army had lost its sense of direction and could no longer find the way back. Duke Huan's heart grew unsteady. Guanzhong quickly said, "People often say an old horse knows the road. Wuzhong borders the Shanrong lands, and many of their war horses come from beyond the northern sands. Let Hu'er Ban select a few old horses from his contingent and place them in front. If the horses lead and the army follows, we may yet escape this desert." Duke Huan followed the plan. With the old horses leading, winding, left and right, they finally escaped the Dry Sea. A later commentator praised the episode in verse, essentially saying that ants can sense underground water and old horses can find the way, and that in moments of peril, even creatures unlike ourselves can become our salvation. The poem also mocked shallow men who insist on their own judgment, asking who among them can set pride aside and heed loyal counsel. Meanwhile, Huang Hua, walking ahead with Gao He, deliberately lured Gao He onto the road toward Yangshan. When Gao He saw that the main army had not arrived and asked Huang Hua to pause, Huang Hua refused. Suspicious, Gao He reined in and stopped. Huang Hua ordered him seized. Huang Hua then led his troops to Yangshan and met Dali. He concealed the truth about killing Miliu and instead reported, "Miliu fought the key army at Mabin Mountain, was defeated, and was killed. I used a false surrender to lure the main key army into the death trap of the Dry Sea, and I have captured the key general Gao He. I have brought him here. My lord may dispose of him as you see fit." Dali ordered Zhou He be brought forward, and said, "If you will surrender, I will certainly employ you in high office." Gao He glared, cursed aloud, and shouted, "My family has received Qi's great kindness for generations. How could I surrender to you, you rabble of dogs, sheep, and swine?" He then turned and cursed Huang Hua, "You tricked me into coming here. My death is nothing. When my ruler brings his army, he will destroy you and your ruler together. Your state will fall, and you will die, and regret will come too late." Huang Hua flew into a rage, drew his sword, and killed Gao He on the spot. Dali then mobilized his troops to seize Wudi. Duke Zhuang of Yang had too few men and an empty city he could not defend. He ordered fires set in all directions, broke out through the confusion, and withdrew to Tuanzi Mountain, where he made camp. As for Duke Huan, after leading the army out of the Dry Sea, he had gone less than 10 li when he encountered a contingent of troops. Scouts went forward and discovered that it was Gongsun Ziping. The two forces reunited. Duke Huan then ordered the army to withdraw toward Wudi. On the road, they saw the people of Guju, old and young alike, fleeing in disorder. Guanzhong sent men to ask what was happening. The people replied, "Our ruler has driven out the Yan troops and reclaimed the capital. We are rushing back to our homes in Wudi." Hearing this, Guanzhong said, "I already have a plan to break the enemy." He ordered Hu'er Ban to take several trusted soldiers, disguise themselves as Wudi townspeople, and mingle with the returning crowds to enter the city. Their task was to set fires at night as a signal and serve as internal support. Hu'er Ban accepted the order and entered the city. Guanzhong then issued further commands. Shu Tao would assault the south gate, Lianzi would assault the west gate, Gongzi Kaifang would assault the east gate. Only the north gate would be left open, as a road of escape for the enemy. Secretly, however, Prince Chengfu and Gongsun Zaipeng each led troops to ambush outside the north gate. When Dali fled, they would close in from all sides, capture him, and kill him. Back inside the city, Dala sent men to extinguish the fires, recalled the people, and ordered Huang Hua to muster troops, preparing to fight Qi to the death. At dusk, Dala suddenly heard battle cries outside the walls. A report came at once. The Qi army has surrounded the gates. Huang Hua had never imagined the Qi army could survive the dry sea. He was alarmed and rushed to the gate tower to observe and direct the defense. At midnight, Hu'er Ban began setting fires throughout the city. Then he led his men to the south gate and split it open. Shu Tao seized the moment and led Qi troops storming into Wudi. Knowing the situation was lost, Huang Hua helped Dala onto a horse and prepared to flee. Hearing that there were no Qi troops at the north gate, he ordered it opened and escaped. But after less than 2 li, they were intercepted by the ambush led by Prince Chengfu and Gongsun Zipping. At the same time, Gongzi Kaifang Shu Tao and Hu'er Ban pressed in from behind. Huang Hua fought desperately, but in the end his strength failed and he was killed. Dala was captured alive by Prince Chengfu. The Chancellor Wu Lagu was also cut down in the chaos by routed soldiers. At daybreak the next morning, Duke Huan arrived at Wudi and pacified the people. He then personally executed Dalu and ordered his head hung from the north gate, as a warning that the Rong peoples must no longer harass the central plains. The surrendered Rong commanders reported to Duke Huan that Zhao He had refused to yield and had been killed. Duke Huan lamented deeply and ordered the event recorded, intending, once he returned home, to provide support and compensation to Zhao He's family and kin. When Duke Shuang of Yan learned that the Qi army had won, he also led the Yan troops from Tuanzi Mountain to join the victorious forces. Duke Huan said to him, "I answered your state's plea and campaigned 1,000 li. Today we have achieved a great victory. We have gained 500 li of land from Lingyi and Guju, yet I cannot cross borders and hold these distant places for long. I am willing to present them all to Yan." Duke Zhuang of Yan repeatedly declined. "I relied on your lordship's power to preserve my altars of state. I am already satisfied. How would I dare accept such lands?" Duke Huan replied, "Lingyi and Guju lie far from the central plains. If the Rom regain control, they will surely rebel again. You need not refuse. Now the eastern road has been opened. You may fulfill the legacy of your ancestor, Duke Xiao, by paying tribute and pledging service to the Son of Heaven of Zhou, forever guarding the northern frontier. If you do so, even I will feel honored." Only then did Duke Shuang cease declining. At Wudi, Duke Huan held a great feast to reward the 3 armies. Because Wu Zhang had rendered distinguished service in this campaign, Duke Huan granted them the lands beneath Lesser Mountain. Hu'er Ban bowed in gratitude again and again, and then led his troops home. Duke Huan ordered the Qi army to cross the Baya stream, retrieve the war chariots at the rock wall, and withdraw along the original route. Along the way, they saw that after the great fires, grass and trees had become ash. Duke Huan could not help but feel sorrow. Turning to Duke Shuang of Yan, he said, "The ruler of the Shanrong was cruel and without restraint. He exhausted his people in war until even the grasses and trees suffered with them. We who rule states must take this as a warning." Duke Zhuang of Yan nodded in agreement. When Boshoya heard that the Qi army was returning, he hurried from Kuizi to greet them. Duke Huan praised him. The army never lacked provisions. Lord Bo's merit in this campaign is not small. Duke Juan of Yan escorted Duke Huan to the border and was reluctant to part. Before he realized it, he had followed the Qi army 50 li into Qi territory. Duke Huan said, "Since ancient times, feudal lords see guests off only within their own borders. I cannot allow you to lose face for my sake." He immediately ordered those 50 li of land ceded to Yan. Duke Yuan declined again and again, but Duke Yuan would not permit refusal. In the end, Duke Yuan had no choice but to accept. Later, Duke Zhuang built a city there and named it Yanlu, meaning that Duke Yuan's grace would be kept in Yan, Yan's northwest, thus expanded by 500 li, and its eastern border by 50 li. From that point on, Yan began to rise as a major northern power. When the other lords heard that Duke Huan had marched 1,000 li to rescue Yan, won a decisive victory, and yet did not grasp for profit or credit, they could not help but admire and fear him. Later historians summarized the meaning in verse. Duke Huan raised troops across great distances to subdue the northern peoples, not for plunder, but to restore order and reopen tribute to the Zhou king. Force alone is not praised as an ideal, yet when used to uphold the Zhou order and stabilize the realm, it could serve a larger, rectifying purpose. When Duke Huan reached the Ji River in Lu territory, Duke Zhuang of Lu personally came to comfort and reward the army. Grateful for Duke Zhuang's loyalty and kindness, Duke Huan ordered half the wealth seized from the Shanrong and Guju to be presented to Lu. Duke Zhuang of Lu also knew that Guanzhong held a fief called Xiaogu. At the Lu border, he proactively sent men to fortify its walls, hoping by this gesture to resolve the old enmity with Guanzhong. This year was the 32nd year of Duke Zhuang of Lu, and the 15th year of King Hui of Zhou. In the autumn, in the 8th month, Duke Zhuang of Lu died, and from then on, Lu began to fall into turmoil. It is said that Duke Zhuang of Lu had 3 brothers. Gongzi Kingfu, styled Zhong, was Duke Zhuang's older half-brother, born of a concubine. Gongzi Ya, styled Shu, shared the same mother as Kingfu, and was Duke Zhuang's younger half-brother, also born of a concubine. Gongzi Yu, styled Ji, was Duke Zhuang's full younger brother. People called him Ji Yu. He was named Yu because he was born with the character Yu naturally marked on the palm of his hand. Though the 3 brothers all served at court as senior ministers, differences of birth still mattered, and Ji Yu was by far the most capable. For that reason, Duke Zhuang trusted him most. In the 3rd year after he took the throne, Duke Zhuang went to visit Langtai. On the terrace he saw a strikingly beautiful woman of the Dang clan named Meng Ren. He sent men to summon her, but she refused to obey. Duke Zhuang said, "If you will come with me, I will establish you as my principal wife." Meng Ren demanded that Duke Zhuang swear an oath to heaven. Duke Zhuang agreed. That night she stayed with him on the terrace. Meng Ren followed Duke Zhuang back to the palace. A year later she bore him a son, named Ban. Duke Zhuang wished to make Meng Ren his principal wife, and asked his mother, Wen Yang, for approval. Wen Jiang refused. She insisted that Duke Zhuang must cement an alliance with her natal family instead. Duke Zhuang had no choice. He arranged an engagement with the newly born daughter of Duke Xiang of Qi, because the Zhang lady was still a child. The formal marriage did not take place until she was 20. During those 20-odd years, Meng Ren was never formally installed as principal wife, yet in practice she exercised the authority of one. By the time the Jiang lady entered Lu, Meng Ren was already gravely ill. Before long, she died. The Jiang lady lived in the palace for a long time without bearing a son. Duke Zhuang then married her younger sister, Shu Jiang, who bore a son named Qi. Duke Zhuang also had a concubine of the Feng clan, the daughter of the ruler of Zhuju. She bore a son named Shen. Feng placed Shen under the care of Ji Yu, hoping Ji Yu would support him and have him made crown prince. Ji Yu refused, saying, Guangzi Ban is the eldest. The rulership should pass to him. Only then did Feng abandon the idea. Though the Jiang lady was established as principal wife, Du Jirong did not greatly favor her. She saw that Gongzi Kingfu was tall and handsome, and secretly used palace eunuchs to communicate with him. The two soon began an illicit affair. From that point, Kingfu, Shuya, and the Jiang lady formed a faction. In secret, they agreed that Kingfu would one day seize the throne, with Shuya serving as chief minister. A later commentator's verse made its judgment plainly. Licentious court politics were nothing new, but the poison that drifted in from Qi was worse than all. Lu mocked itself by tying alliances to that house, for after Wenjiang, it would be destroyed again by another Jiang woman. In the 31st year of Duke Zhuang's reign, there was a winter drought with no snow. Duke Zhuang decided to perform sacrifices to pray for rain. The day before the rite, he held a rehearsal of music and dance at the residence of the minister Liang. Liang had a daughter of dazzling beauty. Gongzi Ban was captivated and began seeing her in secret. He, too, swore that he would one day make her his principal wife. That day, Liang's daughter climbed a wall to watch the rehearsal. Outside the wall, a stable officer named Liu saw her. He stood below the wall and sang a teasing song, meaning, in essence, the blossoms are bright and desire burns through the cold season, but I dare not climb the wall. so let us become a pair who fly together like lovers." Gongzi Ban happened to be at the Liang residence as well. Hearing the singing, he rushed out to look. When he saw that it was Luo, his anger flared. He ordered his men to seize Luo and beat him 300 lashes. Luo was whipped until blood covered the ground. Ban returned to the palace and told Duke Huan. Duke Huan said, "Luo was insolent to you. You should have executed him, not merely flogged him. He is fierce and swift. No one in the realm can match him. If you beat him with the whip, he will surely hate you." This Luo, the stable officer, had been born with supernatural strength. Once he climbed the gate tower at Jimin with his bare hands, gripped the eaves, and shook the whole structure as if it were a toy. Duke Yuang urged Ban to kill him because he feared Luo's power. Ban refused. "That is nothing but brute strength. What is there to fear?" Luo, however, hated Ban to the bone. He went over to Kingfu and attached himself to Kingfu's household. In the autumn of the following year, Duke Zhuang fell gravely ill. Suspicious of Kingfu, he deliberately summoned Shuya and asked about the succession. As expected, Shuya openly praised Kingfu's ability. Duke Zhuang then summoned Jiyu for counsel. Jiyu said, "You once swore an oath to Meng Ren. Having already wronged the mother, will you now depose her son as well?" Duke Zhuang said, "Shuya urges me to pass the throne to King Fu. What do you think?" Jiyu answered, "King Fu is cruel and violent. He is not fit to hold the rulership. Shuya speaks out of private affection for his elder brother. His words must not be trusted." Duke Zhuang nodded and then lost the ability to speak. You left the palace and, in Duke Zhuang's name, issued an order through an attendant commanding Shoyat to wait at the home of the minister Zunji. Shoyat came as instructed. Jiyu then, together with Zunji, delivered a death order in the ruler's name. They produced a bottle of poisoned wine. Shoyat refused to drink. Zunji seized him by the ear and forced it down his throat. Blood flowed from his 7 openings, and he died. A later historian's verse offered a moral framing. Just as the Duke of Zhou once punished his own kin to secure the royal house, Jiyu destroyed a relative to stabilize Lu. It called this great righteousness, while also lamenting how often families, over many generations, had been willing to slaughter one another for power. That night, Duke Chong of Lu died. Jiyu supported Gongzi Ban in presiding over the mourning rites, and announced to the people that the following year the reign title would change and a new ruler would ascend. That winter, in the 10th month, Gongzi Ban remembered the Dang family's care in raising him. Hearing that his maternal grandfather, Dang Chun, had died, he went personally to pay his respects. King Fu summoned Luo and said, "Do you still remember the hatred of being flogged by Ban? They say a flood dragon away from deep water can be subdued even by a child. Now is your time for revenge. Go without fear, I will take responsibility for everything." Luo said, "With your support, how could I dare disobey?" He concealed a sharp blade and hurried through the night to the Dang minister's residence. After the 3rd watch, he leapt over the wall and hid outside the rooms. At dawn, Luo saw a young eunuch open the door to fetch water. He seized the moment and rushed into Gongzi Ban's bedchamber. Ban was putting on his shoes and getting out of bed. When he saw Luo, he was shocked and demanded, "What are you doing here?" Luo ground his teeth and shouted, "I have come to repay the disgrace of last year's lashes." Ban snatched the treasured sword by the bed and struck at Luo. Cutting his head, Luo raised his left hand to deflect the sword and drove his blade with his right into Ban's ribs. Ban fell badly wounded and died on the spot. The young eunuch ran to alert the Dang household. The servants and retainers raised knives and swords and surrounded Luo. With his head bleeding, Luo could not fight them off. They hacked him to pieces. When Jiyu learned that Ban had been murdered by Luo, he knew King Fu was behind it. Fearing that King Fu would now come for him as well, he fled that very night to the state of Chen. King Fu feigned ignorance, blamed everything on Luo alone, and ordered Luo's entire family exterminated. The Zhang lady, seeing Ban dead, wished to promote King Fu to the throne. King Fu replied, "So long as the other princes remain alive, I cannot truly hold the great seat. They must be eliminated." The Jiang lady said, "Then let us establish Gongzi Shen as ruler. What do you say?" King Fu opposed it. Shen is already too old and hard to control. It is better to establish Gongzi Qi. King Fu ordered the mourning for Ban, then traveled personally to Qi under the pretext of delivering funeral news. He reported to the ruler of Qi the account of Ban's death at Luo's hands. In secret, however, he bribed Shu Tao with gifts, asking him to lobby the Qi court in favor of installing Gongzi Qi as ruler. Gongzi Qi took the throne the following year and changed the reign, known in history as Duke Min of Lu. He was only 8 years old. Duke Min was the son of Shu Jiang, and thus the nephew of Duke Huan of Qi. Because of his youth, within the palace he was watched by the Jiang lady, and in court he was controlled by the minister King Fu. He resented them deeply. Secretly, he sought outside help to break free. He therefore sent envoys to make an agreement with Duke Huan of Qi to meet at Luogu. When the two rulers met, Duke Min grasped his maternal uncle, Duke Huan, by the hem of his robe, and privately told him that King Fu had committed acts of rebellion. After listening, Duke Huan asked, "Among Lu's ministers, who is the most capable?" Duke Min answered, "Only Jiyu is truly capable, but he has been driven out by King Fu, and has fled to Chen." Duke Huan asked, "Why not summon him back and place him in power?" Duke Min said, "I fear King Fu will grow suspicious." Duke Huan replied, "With me taking charge of this matter, who would dare refuse?" Duke Min then used Duke Huan's authority as a pretext and sent for Jiyu to return from Chen, appointing him chancellor. This was the 6th year of King Hui of Zhou, and the 1st year of Duke Min of Lu. That winter, Duke Huan of Qi feared that Duke Min of Lu's position was unstable. He deliberately sent the senior minister Zhang Qiu to convey greetings, and at the same time to observe King Fu's movements. Zhang Qiu paid a visit to Duke Min. Duke Min wept bitterly, so overcome that he could not speak. Zhang Qiu then went to see Gong Zishen and discussed Lu's state affairs with him. Shen answered smoothly and coherently, with clear reasoning and sound order. Zhang Qiu sighed to himself. This is the kind of talent fit to govern a state. When Zhang Qiu met Jiyu, he urged him to treat Gong Zishen well. He then asked why Jiyu had not moved earlier to eliminate King Fu. Jiyu said nothing, but only raised one hand, palm open, as a silent sign. Zhang Qiu understood at once. One man alone cannot make a chorus, so he said, "I will certainly report the Chancellor's predicament to our ruler. If Lu faces trouble in the future, we will not stand by and do nothing." That same day, King Fu came with lavish gifts to visit Zhang Qiu. Zhang Qiu said, "If you can truly be loyal to the altars of state, then not only I, Zhang Qiu, but even our ruler would benefit from it." He refused to accept the bribes. King Fu, hearing this, was both startled and furious, yet he could only take his leave and go back. When Zhang Qiu returned to Kiev, he told Duke Huan, "If King Fu is not removed, Lu will suffer endless future calamities." Duke Huan said, "Then I will send troops to punish him at once. Would that work?" Zhang Qiu replied, "King Fu's true face has not yet been fully exposed. If we march now, we have no legitimate pretext. This man is ambitious and will never be content with the present. Sooner or later he will commit open treason and seize the throne. When he does, we can strike and kill him with rightful authority." Duke Huan agreed. In Duke Min's 2nd year, King Fu's desire to usurp power grew more urgent. Yet because Duke Min was Duke Huan's nephew, and had Jiyu supporting him with full force, King Fu did not dare act rashly. One day, as King Fu sat at home, a gatekeeper reported, "The minister Bu Yi requests an audience." King Fu brought Bu Yi into his study. Bu Yi's face was dark with anger. King Fu asked, "Why are you so enraged?" Bu Yi complained, "I own a plot of land bordering the estate of the Grand Tutor Shen Buhai. He used his influence to seize it. I reported the matter to our ruler, but the ruler sided with his own teacher and ordered me to yield the land. I cannot swallow this. I have come today to beg you to speak for me before the ruler." King Fu dismissed the attendants and spoke in a low voice. "The ruler is young and ignorant. Even if I speak, he will not listen. If you will join me in a great undertaking and help me take the throne, I will kill Shen Buhai for you." Bu Yi hesitated. "Ji Yu holds power at court. This may be difficult to accomplish." King Fu said, "The ruler is still a child at heart. At night he often slips out through a side gate and wanders the markets. Have men lie in wait around that side gate. When he comes out, assassinate him. Then I will claim that I act under the command of the late ruler's principal wife and take the rulership. After that, driving out Ji will be as easy as turning over one's hand." Bu Ye agreed. He found a warrior named Chiuya and ordered him to carry a sharp dagger and wait at the side gate. That night, Duke Min indeed left the palace. Chiuya sprang out and stabbed him to death. Duke Min's attendants captured Chiuya, but before long, Bu Yi led his household men and seized him back at the same time. Shen Buhai was murdered at home by King Fu. When Jiyu heard the news, he rushed by night to Guangzishen's residence, informed him that King Fu had committed regicide, and fled with Guangzishen to the state of Zhou for refuge. A later commentator's verse made the point bluntly. Ban was murdered and Duke Min was slain. and the question was, who truly held the knife behind it all? The poem blamed Lu's chaos on intrigue that began inside the palace chambers and lamented that Lu's marriage alliance with Qi's Jiang women became the seed of disaster. The people of Lu had always respected Jiyu. When they heard that Duke Min had been killed and that their chancellor had been forced to flee, they hated King Fu and Bu Yi to the bone. That very day, the capital shut down its markets. More than 1,000 people gathered, stormed Bu Yi's house, and killed his entire family, then moved on to besiege King Fu's residence. King Fu knew public rage could not be contained. He decided to flee. He remembered that Duke Huan of Kiev had once relied on forces from Ru to recover his state and take the throne, and that Qi and Ru were on excellent terms. He believed he could use Ru as an intermediary to explain himself and beg forgiveness. Disguised as a merchant, he loaded a cart with treasures and gifts and fled toward Ru. The Jiang lady saw that King Fu had escaped to Ru. Alone in Lu, she could not hold power by herself and feared for her position. She also intended to flee to Ru, but her attendants stopped her. Because you sheltered King Fu, you have offended the people of Lu. If you go join him now, how will they tolerate you? Jiyu has fled to Zhou. It would be better for you to flee to Zhou and seek his protection. The Jiang lady fled to Zhou and asked to see Jiyu, but Jiyu refused to meet her. When Jiyu learned that both King Fu and the Jiang lady had left Lu, he decided to return with Gong Zishen. At the same time, he sent to Duke Huan of Qi requesting assistance. When Duke Huan received the message, he summoned Zhong Songqiu and asked, "Lu is leaderless now. Shall we take the chance to annex it?" Zhong Songqiu replied, "Lu is a state of ritual at the heart of the Central Plains. Though it suffers regicide and turmoil, this is temporary. Gong Zishen is young and sharp, and Chancellor Jiyu has both ability and popular support. They can pacify the people and restore order. We should assist them in completing that work." Duke Huan agreed. He ordered the High Minister Gaoxi to lead 3,000 warriors to Lu and act as circumstances required. Before Gaoxi departed, Duke Huan told him, "If Gong Zishen truly can shoulder the state, then support him with all your strength in taking the throne. That will also tighten the bond between Qi and Lu. Otherwise, seize the moment and annex Lu." Gaoxi arrived in Lu just as Jiyu returned with Gong Zishen. Seeing Gong Zishen's dignified bearing and the clarity of his speech, Gaoxi could not help but feel respect. He and Jiyu agreed to install Gong Zishen as ruler of Lu, known in history as Dukeshi of Lu. Gaoxi then ordered the Qi warriors to help Lu fortify Lumen City, to guard against designs from Zhou and Ru. After these events, Jiyu sent Gunzi Jisi with Gaoxi to Qi to thank Duke Huan. At the same time, he sent bribes and gifts to Ru, hoping that Ru would kill King Fu on Lu's behalf. After King Fu fled to Ru, he had already presented the Ru ruler with great wealth. Now the Ru ruler also coveted Jiyu's even richer gifts. He therefore sent word to King Fu, "Ru is small and weak. We fear that harboring you will provoke war with Lu. You must seek refuge elsewhere." Before King Fu could even pack, the Ru ruler expelled him from the state. King Fu remembered that Shu Tao of Kiev had once accepted bribes from him and that they had formed a personal connection. He therefore traveled through Zhou and went to Kiev to seek shelter under Shu Tao. Qi's border officials knew King Fu's treacherous nature and did not dare admit him without authorization. They ordered him to remain temporarily by the Wen River. By coincidence, Gongzi Jisi, returning from his mission to Qi, passed the Wen River. He saw King Fu and urged him to return with him to Lu. King Fu dared not. He said, "Ji, you will never forgive me. I beg you to plead for me. Ask him, for the sake of our shared bloodline from the former ruler, to spare my life. I am willing to live thereafter as an ordinary man." Jisi returned to Lu and repeated King Fu's plea to Duke Shi and Ji Yu. Duke Shi wished to accept it, but Ji Yu urgently dissuaded him. King Fu committed regicide. If we do not execute him, how can we warn those who come after? In private, Ji Yu added to Jisi, "If King Fu is willing to accept guilt and take his own life, then later we can adopt an heir for him so his ancestral sacrifices may continue." Jisi returned again to the Wen River. He wanted to enter and convey the message, but found it too painful to speak. He began weeping loudly outside the gate. Hearing the cries, King Fu knew it was Jisi. He sighed. "Jisi does not enter the house but weeps outside. It seems I cannot escape death." He took off his sash and hanged himself from a tree. Only then did Jisi enter, collect the body, and carry it back. Reporting to Duke Shi, hearing Jisi's account, sighed repeatedly. One day a scout reported, "The ruler of Ru has sent his younger brother Yingna to invade our borders. Hearing that King Fu is dead, they have come to demand a reward of thanks from us." Jiyu was furious. "They did not seize King Fu and deliver him to us. How dare they claim merit and demand payment?" He volunteered to lead troops to meet them in battle. Duke Xi approved. He removed his own dagger and personally presented it to Jiyu, saying, "This blade is called Minglao. It is not quite a foot long. It can cut metal and cleave jade. Its edge is incomparable. Uncle, keep it well." Jiyu accepted the blade, hung it at his waist, thanked Duke Xi, and marched out. The Lu forces reached Li and met the troops led by Yingna. Jiyu thought, "Our new ruler has only just taken the throne. The state is not yet stable. If we cannot defeat the enemy this time, public confidence will falter. Yingna is greedy and reckless. I should defeat him with a stratagem." He rode to the front and called out to Yingna, "You and I have a personal grievance. What crime have the soldiers committed? I have heard you are a man of great strength. I propose that we put down our weapons and fight barehanded to decide the outcome. What do you say?" Yingna was delighted. Excellent. They ordered the troops to withdraw and fought hand to hand before the lines. For 50 exchanges they grappled and struck, neither gaining advantage. Jiyu's son Xingwen, only 8 years old, was exceptionally clever and dearly loved by his father. Jiyu had brought him on campaign. Seeing his father unable to win, the boy shouted, "Use Minla." Jiyu, startled as if awakened, he deliberately exposed an opening, drawing Yingna one step closer. In the same motion, he pulled Minglao from his waist and swept it in a single stroke, shaving away half of Yingnao's skull from brow to crown. When the rude troops saw their commander killed, they fled without waiting for the armies to clash. Jiyu won a great victory and returned in triumph. Upon receiving the report, Duke Xi personally went outside the city to welcome him. He also ordered Jiyu appointed as chief minister and granted him the fief of Fei. Jiyu immediately declined, saying, "King Fu, Shuya, and I are all grandsons of Duke Huan of Lu. To preserve the altars of state, I poisoned Shuya and forced King Fu to his death. It was truly out of necessity. Now both are dead without heirs. If I alone enjoy high rank and rich reward, how can I face Duke Huan beneath the earth?" "Duke," she said, "the two plotted rebellion. If we also grant them honors, does that not violate ancestral law?" Jiyu answered, "They had the intent to rebel, yet never completed the act. They also did not die by torture and execution. We should build ancestral shrines for both, to show that our ruler values kinship and does not delight in extermination." Duke Xi agreed. Thus Gongsaneo was adopted as King Fu's heir and founded the Mingzhen clan. King Fu's style was Zhang, so by style name logic, the clan would have been called Zhangzhen. But to avoid invoking King Fu's infamous name, they changed it to Ming. The Mingzhen fief was at Cheng. Gongzizi was adopted as Shoya's heir and founded the Shuzhen clan, with its fief at Hu. Jiyu's fief was at Fei. Later Duke Xi further granted him fields at Wenyang, and his descendants became known as the Jisun clan. From that point, the Ji, Meng, and Shu houses stood like 3 legs of a tripod and jointly controlled Lu's state affairs. People called them the Three Wan. On that same day, the south gate of Lu's capital suddenly collapsed for no apparent reason. Those who claimed insight said that a lofty gate falling without cause was an omen. In time, ministers would rise above the ruler. A later commentator's verse drew out the irony. It praised Jiyu's virtue and merit, yet questioned why the houses of Meng and Shu, born from the very men who had brought calamity, were also preserved and endowed in chaotic times. Even righteous hands can end up sustaining what should have been cut away, and so Duke Huan's descendants became the very pillars of Lu's later factional rule. It is said that when Duke Huan of Qi learned that the Jiang lady had taken refuge in Zhou, he said to Guanzhong, "Both Duke Huan of Lu and Duke Min of Lu met bad ends, and it was all because of women of my Jiang clan. If I do not now raise troops to attack Zhou, Lu will surely take those 2 rulers as a warning and cut off marriage ties with us." Guanzhong replied, "Once a woman is married, she follows her husband. If she offends her husband's house, it is not something her natal clan can truly control. Even if you wish to send troops against Zhou, you must conceal that reason and find another pretext." Duke Huan accepted Guanzhong's advice. He sent Xu Tao to Zhou to escort the Jiang lady back to Lu. When the Jiang lady reached Yi, Xu Tao advised her, "You were involved in the plotting that destroyed the 2 young rulers. Ban and Qi, the people of both Qi and Lu know it. Even if you return to Lu, how could you face the ancestral temple? You should end your life here. That will also silence the world's eyes and tongues." After hearing Xu Diao's words, the Jiang lady shut her door and wept loudly. After midnight, the crying stopped. Xu Dao opened the door and found that she had hanged herself. Xu Tao informed the local officials at Yi and had them arrange the funeral. He then sent a fast rider to report to Duke Xi of Lu. Duke Xi received the coffin and conducted rites for her burial, saying, "The bond between mother and child cannot be cut off." He granted her the posthumous title Ai, and so she was thereafter known as Ai Jiang. After Duke Huan of Qi rescued Yan and helped stabilize Lu, his reputation only grew. The feudal lords of the Central Plains submitted one after another. Duke Huan trusted Guanzhong even more, entrusting him with full authority over state affairs, while he himself spent his days hunting, drinking, and seeking pleasure. One day, Duke Huan went hunting with his men in the great marshes. In the middle of high spirits, he suddenly stared straight ahead, motionless, his face filled with terror. Shu Tao was driving the chariot. Seeing Duke Huan's expression change, he hurriedly asked, "My lord, did you see something?" Duke Huan answered, "Just now I saw a ghost. Its shape was strange and terrifying. Is this an ill omen?" Shu Tao said, "Ghosts are yin things. How could they dare appear in broad daylight?" Duke Huan said, "In the past, my late father Duke Xiang once hunted at Guffin and saw a monstrous boar, also in daylight. Go at once and summon Zhongfu for me." Shu Tao replied, "Zhongfu's not a sage. How could he know matters of spirits and ghosts?" Duke Huan said, "Zhongfu could identify your. How can you say he is not a sage?" Shu Tao argued, "That time, my lord first described yours appearance. Zhongfu merely followed your words and spoke as he did to keep you from turning back halfway. Today, when you see Zhongfu, do not describe the ghost's appearance. Let him guess. If his guess matches what you saw, only then can we say he is truly a sage." Duke Huan agreed. Shu Tao drove the chariot back to the capital. Duke Huan, anxious and suspicious, fell ill that very night. The next day, Guanzhong and the other ministers came to visit. Duke Huan called Guanzhong close and said that he had seen a ghost the day before. His mind was now so troubled that he could not describe it clearly, and he asked Guanzhong to guess what it was. Guanzhong could not guess. He could only say, "Let me go inquire and learn more." Shu Tao laughed from the side. "I knew Zhongfu wouldn't be able to say it." Duke Huan's illness worsened. Guanzhong grew deeply worried. He ordered a proclamation posted at the city gates. "Whoever can describe the shape and origin of the spirit my ruler saw will receive 1/3 of my fief." A man wearing a bamboo hat and ragged clothes came to see Guanzhong. Guanzhong bowed respectfully and invited him into the study. The man asked, "Is the ruler ill?" Guanzhong said, "Yes." The man asked again, "Is he ill because he encountered a spirit?" Guanzhong said yes. The man asked again, "Did he see it in the great marshes?" Guanzhong, startled, said urgently, "If you can describe its appearance, I will share wealth and honor with you." The man said, "Take me to see the ruler. I will speak with him face to face." Guanzhong brought the man to Duke Huan. Duke Huan was wrapped in layers of thick quilts, sitting upright on the bed. Seeing the man's torn clothing, Duke Huan was displeased and demanded, "Are you the one, Zhongfu says, understands spirits?" The man answered, "My lord harms himself. A spirit cannot harm you." Duke Huan asked, "Then, do spirits truly exist or not?" The man replied, "Of course they exist. In water there are water demons. On earth and mounds there are mound spirits. In the mountains there are mountain monsters. In the wilderness there are wandering apparitions. And in marshlands there is something called the wish." Duke Huan said, "Then tell me what the wish looks like." The man answered, "The wish is as broad as a chariot wheel and as long as a chariot pole. It wears purple robes and a red cap. It especially hates the rumbling sound of chariots. When it hears that sound, it comes out and stands holding its head with both hands. Such a thing is not easily seen. Whoever sees it is destined to become hegemon of the realm." When Duke Huan heard this, he burst into laughter, leapt from the bed, and his illness vanished at once. Duke Huan said to the man, "That is exactly what I saw in the marshes." He then asked the man's name. The man answered, "My name is Huangzi. I am a farmer from the western borderlands of Qi." Duke Huan said, "Stay with me and take office." He intended to appoint Huangzi as a senior minister. Huangzi repeatedly declined. "You honor the Zhou royal house, sweep away the Rong and Yi, and bring peace to the Central Plains. Because of you, I can live as an ordinary man in tranquil times. I am satisfied. I wish to return home and farm. I do not want office." Duke Huan praised him. "You are truly a man of rare detachment and virtue." He rewarded Huangzi generously and sent him home under escort. Duke Huan then wanted to reward Guanzhong as well. Shu Tao protested. Zhongfu could not describe the spirit. Huangzi did. Why should you still reward Zhongfu? Duke Huan replied, I have often heard that if one listens broadly, one becomes clear-sighted, but if one listens narrowly, one becomes blind. Without Chengfu, how could I have met Huangzi and heard these words? Only then did Shu Tao accept it. In the 17th year of King Hui of Zhou, the Di peoples raised troops to invade Qing. They then turned and attacked Wei. Duke Yi of Wei could not withstand them and sent envoys to Qi to request aid. The ministers all urged Duke Huan to dispatch troops. Duke Huan said, In the past we campaigned far to punish the wrong, and to this day we have not fully recovered our strength. Let us wait until next spring, assemble with the feudal lords, and rescue Wei with allied forces. That winter, the Wei minister Ningsu came to Qi and said, The Di have already broken Wei. Duke Yi of Wei has been killed. I have come to welcome Gongza Hui back to Wei to inherit the rulership. Duke Huan was shocked and said, Not sending troops earlier to save Wei was my great fault. How did the Di break Wei? We will continue in the next episode.
The sky in light, Nua healed the broken heart. Fuxi traced the world's design. Every age leaves stories bright. Yaya dynasty shaped bronze. Shang dynasty cast oracle bones. Thou dynasty built right. Qin dynasty forged the great walls. Han dynasty opened Silk Road winds. Three Kingdoms dynasty turned war to tales. Qin dynasty led ink and mountains bloom. Sui dynasty carved the Grand Canal. Tang dynasty crowned the world with art. Song dynasty raised learning's flame. Yun dynasty swept the northern plains. Ming dynasty strengthened walls again. Qing dynasty closed an ancient end. Every age leaves stories bright. History and myth ignite in endless light. China's history moves in mystery through the night. Footsteps of this land enchant the world in light. Han dynasty opened Silk Road winds. Three Kingdoms dynasty turned war to tales. Qin dynasty led ink and mountains bloom. Sui dynasty carved the Grand Canal. Tang dynasty crowned the world with art. Song dynasty raised learning.